listening to the Wandering Womb podcast with Jess and Jaimi. Strong women, strong drinks, strong views, and strong language.
Hey, we're back. Series 5 of the Wandering Womb podcast. Series 5.
I was just saying, I feel really out of practice.
This one might be shit then.
Oh, I don't think it'll be shit. I think we've got a lot of material over the last couple of months.
It's been months since we recorded one. Do you know, I saw that the last time we did one was March.
What, when it didn't work?
No, the one that didn't work was in April. For those of you who don't know us and listening to us for the first time, my name's Jess. This is Jaimi.
Hi.
We're married. And we have been doing the Wandering Womb podcast since... When did we start it, in lockdown?
Yeah, we started it just as lockdown was ending.
Really?
Yes.
Is that what it was?
Yep.
And it was just a space to get drunk and talk about feminist issues. And we're really excited to be back and doing a new series. We have got about 8 or 9 episodes planned. So can't wait to do that. We went through a phase in lockdown of basically just straight drinking Jamshed.
Yeah.
And now we've frankly moved on to the harder stuff because the pandemic was hard. And life is hard.
And also we gained a lot of weight drinking that much red wine.
Yeah, red wine is savage for the amount. It's basically syrup.
Yeah, especially the one that we drank. So we drank obviously Jamshed that you've just mentioned.
It's so
and it's
sweet,
such a
isn't
sweet red wine. It's so good. It puts all the other red wines just to shame.
It makes you never want to drink any other red wine ever again, doesn't it though?
It makes you, when you taste other red wine after you've had Jamshed, it makes everything else taste more bitter and like it's mixed with water.
Yeah. Anyway, Jamshed have nailed that shit, and they're dominating the market now.
Every other wine tastes how I imagine my friend's parents' wine now tastes.
What? Who?
Because we used to fill it up with water.
Oh, okay. I wondered what you meant then. That you were going to start dissing some friends' parents. They have shit tasting wine.
No, not at all.
Okay, so this episode is on internalized misogyny, which I feel like me and you have been talking about constantly for months.
Yeah, we have.
It's become a thing because in a lot of the work we're doing at the moment, contracts, training, research we're doing at the moment, it just keeps coming up and up.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to sort of start by discussing this.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'll say before we start, and I'm going to ask you some questions about it, is we're still going out, aren't we, and delivering pieces of work where people don't even know what misogyny is.
Yes.
And to the people, people will be like, I don't even know how to spell it or say it.
And people's pronunciation, misogyny.
Misogyny comes up a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Misogynistic. I've heard that a few times this month.
And people say, oh, that's misogynist.
Yeah.
Rather than misogynistic. And things like that. The understanding of misogyny is so so much further behind our other understanding of different oppressions.
Oh God,
that even the word itself is
sure.
somewhat alien.
It's interesting as well when you listen to people because they'll say, I get sexism and I'll say sexism, I understand what sexism is, but I don't know what misogyny is. And you think, that's amazing because obviously sexism exists because of misogyny.
Yeah. And then also you've got, sometimes people say, oh, well, is it because of the word? And I think, it is somewhat of a difficult word, I guess, maybe to pronounce or to look at. There's harder words,
to be honest with you.
But look at things like xenophobia. I've never seen anyone call it I've never seen that.
Xenopatronum. That's so true because obviously xenophobia is not spelt xenophobia.
No, exactly.
So yeah, you're so right.
And people's understanding of that is,
that's so true. People are like, oh my God, I don't even know how you pronounce or you talk about misogyny. Look it up. You can say onomatopoeia, can't you?
You nearly made me spit my drink out.
If you can say that shit by year 4, you can say misogyny, grow up.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing, was that like we're still having to like explain to people right from the beginning that misogyny is like contempt, prejudice. It's a form of prejudice, against females across the world. Like, and misogyny is as old as time, frankly. So then the topic for today is internalized misogyny. How would you describe that?
One of the best ways that I describe this, and what we both do in training, is that we explain that misogyny is something that is encompassed in everyone's lives, in terms of how we live as a society that's patriarchal. So everything that you can think of that is misogynistic, gender role stereotypes, victim blaming, hatred of women, is that, of course, men are learning this, but also women are learning this as well. So they're learning it about themselves, but also about other women. Mm-hmm. So that's why you get women calling other women bitches, things like that. Yeah,
and like, calling each other promiscuous or sluts, or making comments about each other's body, their appearance,
saying things like, oh, she only got that job because she slept her way to the top. Mm-hmm. Whereas, a lot of women will say that they've had women say that to them, but how many men have had that said to them? The belief that the other women would have to have done that in order to be successful. There's so many different ways that we could describe it, because of how much it captures so much of our lives.
I think you're absolutely right. And then I think that similar to you, I think I would describe it, I would just explain to people that everybody is groomed into misogyny in the same way that we're all groomed into racism, and that we're all groomed into other forms of oppression and bias and stereotype. Misogyny is not any different from that. And as you said, like, it's one of the last forms of oppression that people don't even know what it is. Like, I'm sorry, but there are other forms of oppression and bias around the world that we have. I'm not saying we solve them, because we're fucking nowhere near solving any of them, but I think that there is more of an acceptance that they exist, for example, than misogyny. Like, we're still having conversations with people about misogyny where they're like, yeah, but is it real? I mean, we've had a female prime minister. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's wild listening to people say shit like that. Like, well, women are totally equal to men now. It is 2022. You're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, and I think that if we look at women's struggle for liberation over the past, 100 years, over the past century or century and a half or whatever, it has taken so long to achieve the basics.
Oh, I know.
Whereas when we compare that to other struggles, I was talking about this in training a couple of weeks ago, look at homophobia. So let's say, 50 years ago, even in the UK, there was laws that, I'd have to have a look back into the history books, but where you could only have sort of sex with someone of the same sex, where it was like, over 21?
Yeah, there was laws around gay sex, right?
Yeah, and
even then it was like absolutely fucking frowned upon.
Even Theresa May was in groups where they wanted homosexuality to be completely illegal.
Well, it was illegal.
Well, yeah,
so
but even as
recent
good
example, isn't it? The fact that we've gone from homosexuality being literally a fucking crime, like sodomy was a crime, and then
then look at her time as prime minister. She didn't say shit about that.
No, I know.
Once she was and look at the short time that was achieved. I think the vast majority of my of any oppression against me isn't because I'm a lesbian, it's because I'm a woman.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's compounded, because when you're a lesbian, you're obviously a woman first and foremost, and you're gay.
Yeah, if we can achieve so much in undoing the oppression and bullying, harassment, everything around, you know, one group of people, why can't we do it for misogyny? We've been trying for so long and we haven't achieved it. Exactly, and we don't want to.
Like, for example, there's now Pride, like, and there's, you know, and there's also, like, entire movements like Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. But there still isn't a movement that's just women. You know, like, there isn't a Pride, there isn't Women's Month for Pride. Like, you know what I mean? There's no equivalent. And I think when feminists attempt to develop an equivalent, they're literally seen as, like, fucking, you know, like, almost, like, hysterical sort of, what do you need that for? You know, like, people are like, oh, God, here they are again, banging on about women dying and being raped. Like, and it's sort of, it really is, you know, complete. And that's women and as well. And that's what this podcast is about. It's like, it's women saying that shit.
And there is that level of, you know, there is scrutiny around Pride and Black Lives Matter and things like that. But those things still go ahead.
Yeah. And
whereas,
they're
like,
into, like, the corporate world.
Yeah.
What fucking corporate company has taken on women's rights as an issue? Fucking none. But you go Santander and get your fucking bank balance, print you out a little Pride receipt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You go fucking Costa, you get a little Pride cup.
Oh, honestly, like I always make this joke to you, don't I, Jess? Where, like, and it sort of goes off topic a little bit, but every time Pride is on, I always say, we get that for free because we're gay, Jess. Because, like, it's bullshit, isn't it, really? But, like, that just shows the level that corporations are willing to go to show that they're not homophobic.
Yep.
And they will happily do that so publicly that not only does it not affect their marketing, but actually positively helps their marketing.
It does, for sure.
Whereas if they were to put "we support women" all over the stuff, it'd get boycott.
Fucking hell, it'd be the end of Santander.
Yeah, and
imagine
it wouldn't
printing your receipt out. It's got your fucking bank balance on it. At the bottom of it says, "We support feminism."
And it wouldn't be just men who were like, "Oh no, we're not interested."
Is female.
But it wouldn't be just men who were like, "Oh, we're not interested."
Wouldn't.
It would be like, you know, loads of women saying, "Well, I don't see why I need." Women's rights. You know, I've got my rights now. Jeez, I'm not oppressed.
That's terrifying. But you're right.
And it would actually negatively impact because if there was no such thing as internalized misogyny, and if all women were able to, I use the term understand loosely, the need for women's liberation, that's 51% of the population.
Yep.
That would mean that we were a somewhat of a majority.
Yeah.
But that's not how it works, because 51% of the population are not pro women's rights.
No, not at all. Funnily enough, I put a post up on social media about CPR. And it was about the fact that medical misogyny has meant that, you know, when you're trained to do first aid, like, so when you're resuscitating somebody that's in cardiac arrest, obviously all the mannequins are male, they don't have any breasts on them, and so you're not taught how to do that correctly. The defib positioning on a woman is not the same as a man because of where the heart is and where your left breast is and stuff like that. Anyway, I put a post up about it that was from the West Midlands Ambulance Service that had written a post about it. I thought that was really interesting. I'll share that. And then there was so much shit in the comments, all women being like, well, you know, men, because of Me Too, men are now too scared to do CPR in case they get sued for, you know, unbuttoning a woman's blouse or touching her breast or trying to perform CPR. Like, oh, fuck off, will you? Like, first of all, no, they don't. If you're in cardiac arrest, you're technically fucking dying or dead. And, like, anyone who can save you, I'm pretty sure you're not going to come around from that in a few days' time in fucking resource in some hospital somewhere and go, well, was it a man who unbuttoned my shirt? On a load of shit. But, like, it was the fact that it was women starting that. And it was no men, you know. It's not a single man kicking off in them comments being like, oh, fuck Me Too, this is why I won't give a woman CPR. It's women saying it.
Yeah. And that's sort of where a lot of people's like, oh, well, they're handmaidens, aren't they?
Yeah. Like, see, now, I have a real issue around this. I really don't like the way feminists call other women who have internalised misogyny and operate from their position of internalised misogyny pick-me's and handmaidens, because I really think that is their own misogyny. It's like layered misogyny, that is, because the other woman is operating from a position of internalised misogyny because she's been fucking socially groomed into it. So just because you can see that, the fact that you then call her a misogynistic term doesn't make you any better. Talk to her. Like, what are you getting out of that? Being like, oh, look at the pick-me's. Oh, she's a handmaid, isn't she? Oh, she's a dick panderer. Like, oh, well done. Useful.
I do think that works, though, sometimes.
I don't. I think they just switch off. Can you imagine being a woman that's made a comment where you think that you're...
I've seen another woman, when I was much younger, online, get called a pick-me. And she had the same view that I had. And then I just thought... And something in me actually clicked, and I thought, I get it now. And it was this thing where I just...
It wouldn't have changed her view, it would have just insulted her, and she would have been defensive.
I don't know, maybe. But, like, seeing other women get sort of called it...
But that's changed through fear.
I don't think it was changed through fear. For me, it was a case of, like... it was a realisation that the term, like, pick me was used... because she was essentially pandering to men. And it made me realise that my position was cared more about... Well, I mean, it was sort of difficult to explain it. It was about a post that I'd seen about male victims of rape. And there was, in the post, there was a woman saying, we need to be talking more about male victims of rape, and she'd put it on a post that was about female victims of rape. And then someone's like, oh, come on, like, you're being ridiculous. This is something that affects women more. This post is about women. If you care about men.
Don't come on here and derail.
Yeah, and then she was saying, like, well, just the normal, the usual lines.
Men are raped too and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and then she got called, I think she got called a pick-me. And it just made me realise. But I do appreciate. Like, but I do think though that maybe I was in a kind of position that most women aren't, where they're not that reflective. But I was very reflective at the time. Yeah,
I just in general don't. I mean, like, obviously we must have different views on this, but I just think in general that is not the way to win hearts and minds.
Oh no,
I don't think so.
I don't think so, but I don't think we can necessarily win using hearts and minds anyway, which is interesting because we had a discussion about that.
Yeah, we did. I know.
And like, it's similar to what we both say. You can't educate racism out of someone. You can't explain to someone why racism is bad, and they're not going to go away and change their worldview.
No, of course. Like, if you've got someone that's fucking racist or homophobic or misogynistic, you can't put them on like a half-day course and give them a load of education, and then they walk away from it and go, fucking hell, yeah, I am a fucking bigot. Fucking hell, yeah, I am quite racist. Oh yeah, I am quite fucking misogynistic. Gosh, if only I had known these statistics and theories, and then I would not have held these views. That's bullshit. That's not how fucking re-education works, and sort of like changing your cultures and your views and your traditions and your stereotypes.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I think
sometimes it comes from a place of like absolute frustration, though, where it comes to like they just say that because they like when you're trying to talk so passionately about something that's so important and it gets derailed, it often gets used as like, what about men and stuff like that, and you're just like, right. I mean, I don't do it.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. The what about men stuff pisses me off no end.
And I think it comes from, I think the majority of the time that it gets used is when women are frustrated.
I actually think a lot of the what about men stuff, especially from other women, comes from this sort of like, I want to be seen as the woman that's being equal and being egalitarian, and like, I like almost like I'm not a feminist. I'm an
equalist.
Yeah, I'm an equal. It's like, oh, fuck off.
Right, so you want to rape and murder at the same rate as men, do you? Okay.
Whenever you say that, people get so mad. Like, I don't want to be equal with men. Fuck that. I'm not dropping down to that level. I think they should want to be equal with us. But anyway, so I found this thing on the Tinternet where a load of people on Reddit were answering a question that somebody had posted. Right, I'm gonna try and get it, see if it behaves. I think it is behaving. Yeah. Okay. Right. So,
can I just say something that I think I have a bit of a what's the word? Sorry, I've got brain fog today. Where you guess what's going to happen in the future, like in a minute?
Oh, yeah, of course.
What's it called?
Not deja vu.
No. Just basically, I think that the ideas that you read out, we will have seen a significant proportion of them play out in the Depp and Heard trial.
Yeah, I imagine so. Because I tell you what, if you wanted a fucking masterclass in internalized misogyny, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yep.
Right, so the question that was asked on Reddit was, what is some internalized misogyny you have to continuously remind yourself to unlearn? And like anybody could answer, like women could answer, right? So here's what they said. I'm going to read some examples and get your reaction to them.
Okay.
That other women aren't my competition.
Yeah.
I think women are pitted against each other since forever.
Yeah, that one's really hard because I agree and disagree with it. So women are pit against each other, and you know, it's by you celebrating another woman isn't going to take anything away from you.
No, I know.
However, right, and this is something that we talk about, is that often in situations there is the sort of token woman, and there can only be one.
Yeah,
and that means that women are then pit against each other.
Yeah, because society, or in certain communities or certain things, there can only be one successful woman, and if another one is coming up, one of them will get destroyed.
Yeah.
Or one of them will be ridiculed or attacked until there's, again, only one left. Whereas often there can be successful men or strong men. There can be several of them, even if they don't necessarily agree with each other. Society will accept that there are several or many men in that situation, but there can only be one strong woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And it's really difficult because...
And then you are against each other, aren't you? For the top spot, basically.
Yeah, exactly. But if we were to all sort of, even like locally in terms of, you know, within your own realm, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve or trying to get to the top of, you could still support other women and do somewhat around breaking that down of there can only be one woman. If you change the narrative in that field, in that workplace or whatever, you could have a really large impact, and you can have a large impact on the culture.
Yeah.
Like who was it? Was it Taylor Swift when she got like loads of female artists?
Oh, for Bad Blood.
Was it? Yeah, and she was just like,
and
no.
Also she had a bit of a like, almost like a friendship group that she developed in the industry, didn't she? Of like loads of different women where they used to go around her house and like spend time together and do sleepovers and eat food. And
so many in that industry are pit against each other.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, fuck this. We don't need to be against each other. There is, you know, there's plenty of people who want to buy music.
Yeah.
And look what
They're not going to run out. They're not going to be like, oh no, I've listened to that artist this month and now I can't listen to any more.
Exactly. And that's an example on sort of the global stage of somebody, and I'm not saying she's the first person or the only person to do it, but it did make a big difference, I think, around public perception. Yeah. That actually, and I know we don't really like the phrase, but girl power, if you like, can actually be really well received and good.
I think it might have been the beginning of the 90s, I'm pretty sure, but it could have been the end of the 80s, but I've got a feeling it was the beginning of the 90s. Queen Latifah and like several other female hip-hop and MC artists got together and did an all-female compilation hip-hop album like that celebrated women's rights. It was for it was about like basically about feminism, but they didn't use that term. And like Salt and Pepper was on it. I'm trying to think who else was on it. I know Queen Latifah was on it. I'm trying to think who else. But you know, that was amazing. Like that they did that at the time, especially because that was the beginning of women in hip hop and really starting to be pit against each other. Like because at that time there were more and more female artists coming up, and they were actually becoming quite successful. But like now, you see what happens. Like you get sort of one successful female artist in hip hop, and then if another one is on the way up, they almost like get pitted against each other as if they're like sworn enemies, and they're gonna like fucking beef with each other, and that's the only possible way that they can exist in that space is by trying to kill each other. Okay, do you want me to give you another example of what came up? The hatred of hair, armpits in pictures. I don't know if I'll ever unlearn this one. I just hate how it looks.
That's, yeah.
Like, so I assume they mean hairy armpits.
Yeah. That's...
Or armpit hair. I don't know if that's a...
Yeah, no,
could be
that's...
a language thing, but...
Yeah. That's like... That's so true. But, yeah. Though
I think loads of women struggle with body hair.
Yeah.
On themselves and on other women. Not necessarily to the point where they'd be like, ugh, that's gross. But like to the point where they look at it and think,
no, do you know what?
I
think so. I remember being, I was under 5 and my auntie hadn't shaved her armpits and she picked me up and I went, ew, what's under your arms?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how much I'd been like, and this was back sort of late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
There wasn't like the media like there is today. So, but I was still so groomed. And you know, my mum's very gender non-conforming.
Yeah, no, I know she
so
is.
I was getting those messages from somewhere. And yeah, so even me at that age.
Yeah, that's true. I was just trying to think when I learned that women actually had hair under their arms, because I don't think I did learn that until... I think probably to the point where I actually got hair under my arms when I was like going through puberty, and then my mum being like, well, you can leave it or you can shave it off, and I was like, I didn't even know women had any, and she was like, it's because loads of women shave it off, and I was like, do you shave it off? And she was like, sometimes, and I was like, oh, like I'd never had the thought, and that's interesting as well. So that means I'd got all the way to puberty and was not aware that women had any. And then, like, so I must have been, I don't know, 11 or 12, having a conversation with my mum for the first time where I was like, oh, I didn't know this was a thing. And she was like, yeah, well, you know, loads of women get rid of it, so that's probably why. And I was just like, oh, that's a new one on me. Like, I did not know that was a thing. Do you want another example of what came up on the thread? Saying son of a bitch to insult a guy.
Yeah.
They put, like, seriously, if I want to hurt someone, why am I insulting his mother?
Yep. It's because you can't call him like a man like a bitch.
And then they've put crazy, really, when you think about it, how so many slurs are actually related to women.
I think the son of a bitch one comes as well because all men have got a mum. Do you know what I mean? So, and because men view women who they are very close to as owning them, that is the insult.
Yeah.
That your mum's a bitch.
Oh my God, I've got another one. One that me and you had to talk about quite a lot. Referring to women in their 20s and 30s,
as
including
girls.
myself, as girls. This is a big one because it is one of the things that pisses me off.
Yes.
I really don't like women being called girls.
I have had to challenge myself so much, and I'm aware, you know,
and boys. When me and
no,
you
I
first
said
started...
guys. I used to say guys and girls.
No, you didn't. You said boys, and then you moved to saying guys.
Guys,
you
dudes.
definitely said boys because you were like, oh, she's dating a boy, and I was like, she fucking isn't. Do you not remember a few conversations where you'd be like, oh yeah, I've got this friend and she's dating this boy, and I was like, no, she's not.
That boy is 26.
Yeah, I'm like, I fucking hope she's not dating a boy. She's fucking 20.
I think I usually said guys and dudes for males, but for girls, I said girls. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, I put up a post one time where I was explaining that I was sort of in my early 20s, and I was saying that society has conditioned me so much to sort of infantilize myself that I find it really strange when people call me a woman, because I always see myself as like a girl, and I think it's because, you know, I've been in politics a long time, and you get sort of told that, you know nothing, and you're just like a little girl, stuff like that. And I was saying that, isn't it funny how when I'm in a bar and a man is chatting me up when I was sort of, you know, only 18, a man in his like 30s, 40s, whatever, would be chatting me up, and he would be like, "Oh no, you're old enough.
You're a woman.
You're a woman." But when I open my mouth and I start talking about politics or opinions that I've got, I'm an inexperienced child girl.
Yeah. I remember the first time you ever said that to me, and I was like, that is so fucking right. You're a woman when they want you to be a fucking woman.
You're a woman when they don't want to label themselves as a pedo.
Yeah, but then if you talk about it from an internalized misogyny point of view,
I just said it again. Young girls meant young women.
Yeah, but like from the internalized misogyny point of view, this is a woman saying she calls herself a girl. She calls other women a girl.
Yeah.
So she's calling women in their 20s and their 30s girls.
Girls, yep.
Like
we get called girls.
Yes, this is what I say. We get called girls all the time.
Yeah.
People go, "Oh, we're going to go see the girls." Talking about me and you.
Yeah.
Like we're not two grown-ass women that are married.
Yeah.
Like they talk about us like they're coming to see their little nieces or something.
I know, yeah. Because I call my little cousins, like, I'm going to go and see the girls.
Yeah. But like people say it about us and they'll say stuff like, "Oh, I don't know, like, oh, the girls are having a barbecue."
Yeah.
Don't they?
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, the girls have taken the dog for a walk."
Or even like around work, they're like, "Oh, well, I'll phone the girls."
Yeah.
Like,
isn't that weird?
But I think that's not just us who they call girls. They'll call everyone girls.
Yeah, I know.
Like women being like, "Oh, I'm going out with the girls." Although some men say going out with the boys.
Yeah, they do, don't they? What's that infantilization about?
I wonder if it's around friends that you've had for a long time.
Okay, do you want to do
I think that one's a little bit deeper.
That was
but I do
really
think,
interesting.
I do think that it is more around women than it is around men. But it does still exist around men, but nowhere near as much.
Oh, here's one. That my value as a human being won't suddenly disappear the second I turn 30. Even though, on average, women spend 65 years of our lives as an adult, we're only considered young enough for about 12 of them. That's really interesting, because what she's talking about there is like, you know, between 18 and 30, you have a value as a human being, as a female human.
Yep.
And after that, you're basically fucking done.
Yeah.
And like she says, she's taken that on herself.
Yeah.
And she sees 30 as the end. I'm honestly, as a woman who is nearly 32, I am so glad I've never thought like that, because I can't imagine hitting 30 and genuinely believing that my life was over at 30 and that was it, I'm done.
It's so hard though, isn't it? Because women, when you are young, you're not listened to because you're young, and then when you're older, you're not listened to because you're older. And you have this sort of little gap where you're attractive enough to be paid attention, and if your ideas are good enough, they'll listen. So you have this very small period of being able to get like yourself heard. Yeah, it's a very small window.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've definitely taken on. I'm aware that, you know, I'm almost 25 now, and I have to admit that I know that I have got to stay looking relatively attractive in, you know, whatever capacity, and also young, because, you know, as much as we don't like to admit it, attractiveness is, in this society and in this patriarchy,
to,
is synonymous with being young and attractive. So what you have to say is going to be taken more and more seriously, dependent on how attractive you are.
That's so true, because
your talents. If your talent, like, look at the amount of women who are in the music industry.
Yeah.
How many of them are over 30?
Oh, I know, it's savage at the moment. The music industry is disgusting. Like, pretty much everybody topping the charts right now is under 25.
Except for Kate Bush, who is at number 1.
She is at number 1.
Again, it's from a
TikTok
song from when she was 26.
I love that, like, all this, like, the new generation, like, that are coming up and being like, oh my God, what is this? Fucking hell, it's like, what do they not listen to the radio?
Well, they're kids, they're like 13-year-olds.
Yeah, but don't they listen to, like, the radio in the car? Or
How
like...
often is Kate Bush played on the radio.
Listen to Smooth FM all the fucking
Well,
time.
they're not going to listen to Smooth FM, but...
Put magic on. Put a bit of magic on, be right.
I think it's really cool that we've got a generation... Sorry, going off topic a little bit. We've got a generation of young people who are appreciating music from all throughout the ages. When have we ever had that?
Yeah, no, that, like...
These are like their
parents.
parents.
It is a quick way of doing it as well, like TikTok, obviously. And in fact, in a way, actually, I think I might quit my job and just post awesome tracks on TikTok.
Yes, I've thought about that recently. I literally thought about that today.
What, quitting your job?
No, not quitting my job. No, about like I have great music knowledge, and like I could just tell all these kids about these great. Like, I would introduce, like, Phil Oakey and, like, it'd be awesome.
I was just thinking about, like, all the amazing tunes that, like, even tunes that, like, our kids listen to. Because, like, our kids listen to music that they've got from me.
Yeah,
or
me.
you.
Yeah.
And then they'll put it on that. You can hear them put it on their playlist. They're in the shower listening to, like, one of Jamie's songs or, like, something like that. And you're like, oh, yeah, listen to that. But yeah, so okay, like, do you want to read it? I've got another one for you.
Okay.
Ready? Women who post sexy stuff on the internet and not necessarily doing it for attention or validation. I'm so judgmental of women like that sometimes, and I really hate myself for it.
Oh, that is so interesting. That is so interesting.
That one's a good one because I see that a lot in feminism as well. Almost like that there's almost like a purity in feminism where, like,
you're not allowed to be attractive.
You're not allowed to, or you're not allowed to anything even remotely, like, attractive or what could be perceived to be sexy, because then you can't possibly be a feminist. And then, like, in
case men wank over it, well, guess what? Men wank over women's ankles.
Yeah, well, guess
and women's
what?
toenails.
Men wank over small animals. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're fucking
You'd be
weirdos.
hard pushed to find something that men don't wank over.
I know, yeah.
Not all men, don't worry.
Yeah, that's so true. Like, I'm sorry, but if you're living your life based on, oh, that's for the male gaze, guess what? Fucking everything is. Everything's for the fucking male gaze. What are you going to do? Live in a fucking room on your own forever?
Yeah, exactly. And then that's where it pushes towards conservatism.
Yeah, it does. And that's how you can see where people almost overlap between some of the radical forms of feminism into conservatism, where it's not actually true radical feminism. It actually has pushed into that conservatism.
Yeah.
But also you can see where people who are observers and outsiders are looking at the parallels between the way radical feminists respond to things like sexualization and objectification and so on.
Yeah.
And then the sort of that conservative, don't show your skin, why are you behaving like that? You're promiscuous, you're flaunting yourself, that sort of thing. And they're looking at the parallels and going, hang on a minute, this is the fucking same thing. Like, it's actually coming from slightly different angles, but it fucking looks the same.
Yeah,
and if you're going to attack individual women for it, then it's definitely not radical feminism.
Yeah.
Like, I always say, as in feminism, you're supposed to be focusing on the issue, not the individual.
Yeah,
like
especially in radical feminism.
Yeah, if your feminism, especially radical feminism, involves going on a woman's Instagram and giving her a load of shit because, I don't know, she put a picture up of herself, I don't know.
Or screenshot it and talking about it in WhatsApp groups about why she's not a good enough feminist because she's got a cleavage out.
Yeah, because she's got, I don't know, because she's wearing a tight dress, or because she's wearing a bikini on holiday, or, I don't know, she's wearing a skirt today, or she's got long hair, she wears makeup, she's got hair extensions in, or whatever it is. Like, if that is your feminism, you've lost your way, pal. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's your own internalized misogyny coming out.
It absolutely
and that's what
is.
This woman is talking about, isn't she?
Yeah.
And the fact that she was like, the fact that she says, you know, I'm so judgmental. It's interesting that she sort of reflects on it and says, I really hate myself for it, but also that she knows she does it. That's interesting, because it's almost like she knows she does it. She knows she really doesn't like that part of herself, but she doesn't really stop it either. And also, if that's the kind of woman that then does post up those shitty comments, she is actually harming another woman.
I don't imagine that people post them. I think a lot of people think it, though.
Oh, I fucking see enough women posting it.
Oh, really?
Like, I'm sure you're right, though, that some of them just think it. Shall we find another one?
Yeah.
I had to unlearn that when someone talks about a doctor, I shouldn't immediately picture a man.
Yes, that's true.
But we're groomed into that. That's proper societal grooming.
Absolutely.
You know?
I remember when my friend's mum, I went to nursery with a girl when I was a kid, obviously. And her mum was a lecturer at the local university. And a few years later, or quite a few years, like many years later, my mum said, oh, this is, I'm going to change the name. Oh, look, it's Dr. Smith. And I thought, oh, Ella's dad's got a doctorate.
Yeah, really.
Instead of thinking, no, Ella's mum, who has been a lecturer since you were 3 years old, has got her doctorate.
Yeah. It's we talked about this in training recently, didn't we, when we went away, we were working away training, because one of the delegates was talking about, this exact thing, picturing when you say doctor, picturing a man. And I was saying that our eldest, when he was like 5, I took him to see a doctor. I don't know what was wrong with him. 5-year-olds like, probably fuck all. He probably went in there and did some star jumps. but I went in there and I was like, oh, we're going to see the doctor. And he saw this woman and he was like, that's a nurse. And I was like, no, it's not. Yeah. It's a doctor. And he was like, no, it's not. That's a nurse. And I was like, no. Like, where the fuck did you get that from other than telly?
Yeah.
Because, this definitely not come from me. But yeah, I think... And we also had that conversation about... But also
the role of a nurse is to care.
I know,
and women are caring.
Or, stereotypically seen as nurturers and carers.
Of course. But also, for the vast majority of kids, that is where they get the nurture and the care from, is from their mums.
Yeah.
Because their dads do fuck all.
Absent dads that get called a medal for Father's Day for babysitting. I babysat my kids. No, you didn't, dude. You didn't babysit your fucking kids, you absolute dick. You fucking waste of space. Why am I always having to babysit the kids whilst you go to work? Right, you out. Fucking hell, no fault divorce. Get that shit going. Right, I've got one that I want to finish, just because I've got one left.
Go on then.
And I find this one really interesting. Are you ready?
Yes.
One woman wrote, I had to realise that I don't get along better with men. They get along better with me because they have an incentive to do so. What do you think of that?
Because so many of them, when you think that you're friends, actually then try and have sex with you.
Yeah, they're going to want to fuck you eventually. And then they get really mardy when you don't fuck them. And sometimes that can be long games. Some of these men are literally sound with you for years. And then they'll come on to you. And when you're like, whoa, no, I thought we were friends. And then they're like, they'd never speak to you again.
Yeah.
Do you remember when I came out as lesbian?
Yes.
And there was that certain guy that I'd worked with for years.
Yes.
And
yes, I do.
Hang on a minute, because there was several, wasn't there? That
oh, you're on about?
Yeah.
Yes.
She just mouthed the man's name at me across the sofa. Yeah, no, he straight up was I told him that I'd come out as lesbian.
No, he posted on Facebook that we were in a relationship and he messaged you.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yes.
Yeah, no, so I came out as lesbian.
Yeah, but not to him.
Yeah, not specifically to him. But then he messaged me, didn't he? And
yeah.
What did he say?
He's like, I've never known a woman so passionate, and if I'd have known that you were looking, I would have...
Yeah, and I was a bit like, I don't think that would have worked because I'm lesbian, so...
He just didn't take no for an answer.
Yeah, and he wouldn't say no. And
even though we had literally posted that we were in a relationship.
Yeah, but and also on top of all of that,
that was my growl.
You growling.
Yeah.
It sounded
primal growl.
No, it sounded like you were snoring. Like you just gone. Fuck this, I'm off.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no, him, and then there was another dude. It was the same. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, same happened to me. It was really weird.
Yeah, I know. I remember. And these were guys that, one of them that came on to me when I announced that I was in a relationship with you, I had been friends with and worked alongside for 7 years.
Who was this? Mouth it to me.
Who? No, I don't think so.
Oh.
I'm trying to think who you mean. Oh my god, his name has actually gone straight out of my brain. I'll tell you after the podcast.
I could be mouthing the right name and you might not even know.
No, I don't think you are mouthing the right name.
Okay.
It'll come back to me in a minute. But yeah, no, he I'd worked with him for years and I totally trusted him and he'd never
Oh!
Yes!
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, he came on to me as well. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. What the fuck?
Never even met the dude.
I know, and he was married. But anyway, but yeah, this is a really interesting point from. It's a really important, interesting point from this woman. You know, she's saying that she had to realise what we're talking about, basically. So she had a lot of men around her.
Yeah.
But eventually there was some form of fucking incentive or something that she clicked. That she was like, oh, hang on a minute, this relationship is not neutral. These are not my friends.
Yeah.
There's some sort of attraction there that I've not noticed. And I think that's really common because I think women really, me and you've got male friends, that we're close to and that we love spending time with and that we love, hanging out with. And fucking hell, I hope none of them fancy either of us. I hope that's never going to come out. But, honestly, if I had to put money on it, I'd put money on it right now. Genuinely. Just purely out of chance. Because of how common that actually is. I had a friend who I was friends with for years and years and years, and I was friends with his missus, and I'd been friends with her for years and years, and never once did he show any interest in me that I thought was abnormal or anything. I got on with them for years. I'd been out with them. I'd spent time with them. I'd slept at the house. We'd known each other growing up and everything. And as far as I knew, them two were dead happy. They'd been together years. Everything was great. And then I came out of a relationship and I was single. And I was chatting to him one night and she was at work. And that was fairly normal. Sometimes I'd chat to her while he was at work, whatever. And he fucking straight up came on to me and was like, you know, I fancied you for years and we could shag and I'll never tell my missus. And I was like, what? The fuck do you think you're doing? And he properly shit himself because he was, for some reason he didn't expect me to respond like that. I think he thought I was going to go, yeah, mate. And then I said to him, you better tell your fucking missus what you've done because if you don't, I fucking will. And I was disgusted in him. But first of all, he betrayed her. But second of all, I thought that man was my friend.
Yeah.
And I'd spent loads of time with him. And so what had he been doing? Hiding it? He told me that he'd fancied me for years. What the fuck?
I think this one as a whole is quite difficult in the concept of internalised misogyny because so many women are mean to each other because of internalised misogyny.
Yeah, that you end up knocking around with dudes.
Yeah. And I think that she is right in that so often you think that you've got a friend in a guy and you think that the guys are being nicer to you because in what a lot of women understand as they're not being bitchy.
Oh, I hate that though, because I don't think that's true. I think men are gossips, and I think men are fucking nasty when they get together. I don't think that's true at all. If they really think that men aren't sitting around a table,
but they're not
talking about,
but they're not often nasty to the woman.
Well, not if they fancy him, but
Exactly.
they fucking are if they don't.
Well, that's what I mean though. And then that's what this woman is obviously sort of learning. And obviously, a lot of people have agreed with it, which is how it's ended up on the most common list.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult. And that's the thing about internalised misogyny and the patriarchy is that it's so ingrained that you can't escape it. That men are mean to you because of misogyny. Women are mean to you because of misogyny. Men are sometimes nice to you because they fancy you, because they see you as a sex object because of misogyny.
Yep.
So, as individuals, you have to just sort of go with the patriarchy.
Yeah, and it feels like the way you just described that made me think of being pinged around a pinball machine. It's sort of do you know what I mean? You go from one thing to another. I also think it links in with the whole, I prefer hanging around with men because they're less drama. Which is what you were talking about, oh, they're less bitchy. Do you know what I mean? What you just said. And I just think, I don't know if I agree with that.
I think that they're sort of, I don't, we'd have to find another word for the term bitchy, but I think that because of how often society uses the term bitchy, I actually don't think there is one that can be used in the way that bitchy is used.
Do you know why I think that is, though, before you go on? Because I think that when someone uses the word bitchy about a woman, or even the term bitching about, you know, like, she was bitching about you.
Gossiping, yeah.
I think it's like a real feminine, but like a viciousness.
Yeah.
And that's what you don't get with other words.
Yeah.
So when you say gossip,
it's not like
that
vicious.
is not as vicious as bitching. And like, I think that, and I'm not saying I agree with any of this, I'm just saying that's the way it's perceived.
That's the way the word is used now.
Yeah,
the word is, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
And you tend to find that in groups of men, when they're sort of the equivalent of women in a group bitching, the equivalent of men doing it is that they sort of bring each other down in like a humour way.
Yeah, that becomes really toxic banter.
That
actually
like
becomes
banter.
bullying, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's nasty. And like men can drown in that environment, like that they don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Because if they're not like the alpha that's actually doing all the bullying, they often end up the target of it.
Yeah.
And then you can't, as a man, you can't then admit, you know, I don't like that you just said to me because it was quite upsetting and it's really personal and I don't want you to say that, because then they'd be like, oh, you fucking pussy, which is another misogynistic slur.
Absolutely.
Which is actually the last one on the list. The last one on the list was that a woman was saying that she calls people pussies. Like, and she'll say stuff like, don't be a fucking pussy, or she'll say like, oh, he pussied out. Like, oh, don't pussy out. And she was like, you know, I've had to like challenge my own language around referring to like weakness or being scared as being a woman, you know. That was the last one on the list.
How interesting.
Because I do think that women use a lot of misogynistic slurs, actually. I think they don't even realise it.
I think all of that list actually comes at this from a slightly different angle that I would.
Really? Why?
So all of those, I feel, come from the angle where it is more, how do I explain it? More covert.
Oh, okay.
But actually, internalized misogyny can be even more overt than misogyny from men, because it's more acceptable from women because we're seen as like, well, you're a woman, so you can't be misogynistic.
Yeah, or like, oh, it's just criticism. It's just like valid criticism from another woman.
Yeah, exactly.
I also think that internalized misogyny swings the other way, and what I mean by that is internalized misogyny can also result in women expecting other women to be nice.
Yeah, so
you
that's
can be
another
like,
thing.
when a woman does something that's like mean or nasty or actually really calculated, you can get women say things like, I just didn't expect that from another woman.
Yeah.
Like, why are women treating me like this? Well, because they're fucking capable of it. Why do you believe that they're not capable of that? Because of misogyny. Because you've been groomed to believe, via gender role stereotypes, that they are nurturing, caring, they're a nicer person than men are. They would never do something like that. And then there's an expectation that there's some form of sisterhood.
Yeah.
You know? Like, that a woman wouldn't do that to another woman. Yes, they fucking would.
Yeah. I think as well that that list there talks about internalized misogyny, but actually one of the biggest threats almost of internalized misogyny is that it is externalized onto other women.
Because you can use it against yourself and hate.
Yeah, and a lot of that was more sort of against themselves, but actually when it's externalized,
it's misogyny.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's your misogyny.
Yeah.
For sure.
But often it's because it's sort of like, oh, well, I would never do that.
I was just...
Because they've internalised the messages. Yeah. And it's almost sort of like, you know, so say if a woman doesn't wear stereotypically promiscuous clothing and they see another woman doing it, there's this sort of like, oh, she's like asking a slut. Or like she's a slut. And they were like, well, I don't wear stuff like that because I'm not a slut. But, and then sometimes it's the sort of the attention that other woman gets, there's almost like a jealousy there.
Even when women don't even want it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Like, they'll be like, oh, look at her flaunting herself and getting all this hot male attention. But then it's not attention that woman even wants. Because if a man was treating her like that, she'd be like, fuck off. I was just thinking about the internalized misogyny in lesbianism and in feminism as well. Because I think there's a lot of misogyny amongst lesbians, and I think there's a lot of misogyny in feminism.
There's so much, like, role play of gender role stereotypes in lesbianism.
And feminism.
Yeah, but even in lesbianism, where we're all exclusively women.
Yeah, I know. And that's why I found it really... I hope you don't mind me saying this, babe, but Jaimi said something to me recently that, like, really made me reflect. When we were in the wardrobe, maybe, or something, getting dressed or something, and you'd said to me, do you think that gender role stereotypes and hierarchies, like patriarchal hierarchies, will replicate themselves even in all-female spaces and feminism? And honestly, I can honestly say, I don't mind telling everybody listening, I was in the mirror doing my hair or something, and I properly was like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, because Jaimi was right, and like, it made me like pause. I was like, pause. Shit. Like, because it was so insightful, it was so intelligent, and I was just a bit like, and like, I felt like a million things whirred through my head where I went, oh my God, yeah, there's so many examples of that.
Yeah.
And I think that happens in lesbianism.
Yeah, it does.
Like, for sure. Like for example, the fact that masc presenting butch lesbians are seen as the gold standard lesbian.
Yeah.
But if you're femme, or seen as femme presenting, which fucking doesn't take much these days, so all you got to do is have hair longer than like past your ears or something. But like, if you're femme presenting, you're seen as the bottom of the hierarchy, that you're the bottom of that power structure, which is like exactly the same as the rest of society. So like, how fucking progressive is that, really?
And obviously, like, you know, we don't have anywhere near the amount of sexual assault, murder, stuff like that in lesbian circles, but gender role stereotypes are replicated, and within that, you still have the hierarchy. Yep. You still have the sort of, like, long-haired women are just bimbo airheads.
I see that amongst lesbians. It's gross.
Yeah.
Also, like, one of the, like, internalized misogyny things that I see.
And also, the butch lesbians who have sex with a lot of women, like, she's a top lesbian shagger, she is, right? But the femmes are seen as sluts.
Yeah.
And, like, bitches and whores.
Yeah. Fucking hell, we are not making any progress. For those of you listening to this thinking, wow, this is a really positive, optimistic podcast by the end of this episode, I'm so sorry. Like, this is, but actually, I think this is the depth of this shit. Like, this is how hard this is. I think peeling back years and years and years, layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of, sorry, every time I say layers, I just think about Donkey from Shrek.
I knew you were going to say that.
of misogyny that we've been groomed into, and we use against ourselves, and then we use against other women, and then they use against us, and then, you know, fuck me, we're so fucked. Like, that's how it makes me feel at the end of a conversation like this. Like, we're so fucked. We're so, like, doomed to this forever, because, you know, like, you can try and fucking fight patriarchy and misogyny all you like, but if women are fucking weaponizing it against you at the exact same time, you truly are trapped in that shit.
Exactly. And that's the thing, isn't it? That so many women don't even recognise that we are oppressed as a class.
Yeah, I know.
And in some ways it is not so obvious to us.
Mm-hmm.
And women are pit against each other, and women are supposed to hate each other, and we create toxic environments for women that the patriarchy is replicating itself and feeding itself.
But also we are replicating the patriarchy too.
from women. Yeah.
It reminds me of the conversation me and you had with our friend recently about cheating. So we were talking to our friend about about a guy that had cheated on on her or on his missus or something like that, and like we were talking about the anger that goes towards the woman. So women are always angry at the other woman, like the in quotation marks, the other
like
woman.
the woman is the home wrecker.
Yeah, she's a fucking home wrecker. Like, this is all her fucking fault. No, it's not. It's your fucking dude's fault.
He's not in a committed. He's the one who's in the committed relationship with you.
He's married
She's not.
to you, or he's engaged to you, or he's in a long-term relationship with you. She can do what she fucking
He has
wants.
agency and autonomy to say no.
I know.
And if he doesn't, then are you suggesting that he's been raped?
Yeah.
No, you're not, are you?
No. Like, it annoys
Because if
me
you're
that
suggesting
women get
that-
angry at the women.
Yeah. Because if they're trying to suggest that, like, he had no control and stuff like that, then you're saying that like, he didn't have capacity, which means that it's a sexual assault, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's not, and they know it's not.
Yeah. They just...
Because they see women, and the women who their partner cheats on them with, as, like, the evil temptress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that they seduced their partner and he just didn't know what he was doing, and like, oh, fuck off. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Like, be mad at your
He
fucking
did, and
partner.
he wanted to do it. That's why he wanted, like, that's why he did it.
Like, in the same way, though, like, I would say this about, obviously, we're just giving a het example here, but, like, I would say this about anything. Like, you know, if you fucking, in a relationship, even same-sex relationship, and your partner fucking cheats on you, don't be mad at the other fucking person. They have no loyalty to you whatsoever.
Yeah.
Your fucking partner did, and they fucked you over. So, like, why are you mad at the other person? That makes no sense. The other person's it's up to them what they do. It's their life. They can be a prick if they want to be. Like, but your partner committed themselves to you. Like, that's who you should be angry at. Like, it's... But yeah, we love... I think we love to hate other women, actually. And I think that at the moment, like...
And we also get kudos from men for hating other women.
Yeah, we do. I also think we get kudos from other women from hating a particular woman.
Yeah.
Like, if it's almost like a collaborative hatred, or like a joint sort of hatred of, like, lots of women hate her because, I don't know, she's successful, or because she's attractive, or because she's, I don't know, married to this famous dude, or whatever it is. Like, I don't know, just make it up.
Amber Heard.
Well, yeah. And so, like, you know, if enough women hate her, you're going to get celebrated from other women who hate her, and then you're all in a little cult that hates this one woman. Like, congrats.
Yeah.
That was a really interesting topic to talk about.
I know, I feel like we could talk about that forever, but I think we covered a pretty decent amount.
Can I finish by asking you a question?
Yes.
If there are women listening that are fucking listening to us thinking, shit, I think all this stuff. Like, and now they're like, fuck, like, what am I going to do? I need to stop thinking these things. I need to challenge my own internalized misogyny. What would you say? What would you say to them?
I would say that the best and easiest way to do that is to try and celebrate other women.
Yeah.
Because not only will that help undo so much of your views, but it'll make you feel better.
And
you don't want to be jealous. Yeah, and, like, you don't want to be jealous. Jealousy is horrible.
Yeah, eat you alive.
Yeah, like, try and celebrate other women.
I like that advice. I think, and let's talk about the micro ways you can do that. If you're in a fucking supermarket and the woman fucking serving you has got, like, great hair, or, like, has been really kind to you, or has really helped your elderly parent, or something, fucking say something.
Yeah.
Fucking tell her that she's doing a good job, or, like, tell her that she looks great, or tell her that you love the top she's wearing, or whatever the fuck it is. Like, fucking give her something back. Like, you know, be nice, and, like...
I always, like,
instead of being a fucking misogynist and so fucking glaring at her.
I always make, make sure that anybody on, like, women on my timeline, on my Facebook, on my Twitter, on my Instagram, whatever, if they have done something really cool, I make sure, even if I don't know them that well, I say congratulations.
Yeah, same.
A girl that I went to school with and sixth form with just finished her veterinary degree, so she's like a doctor now. I was like, oh, congratulations, this is awesome. And she posted it on Instagram and Facebook, so I made sure I commented on both. And just things like that, like, she's done really well for herself. That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I think, like, that's a really...
Make sure
congratulate women on their achievements.
And do it publicly on like, online. That's really cool. That'll have, like, a lot of impact.
Fucking share their achievements too. Like, if you've got social media and a woman puts up a post being like, oh, guess what? I did this thing. fucking share it.
Yeah.
Like, how's it going to harm you? Fucking celebrate other women, for God's sake. And like, so like, that's one way of doing it. And then I was thinking...
And then they'll celebrate you back as well, because they'll see you as...
Think, oh, that's supportive.
Yeah,
that's nice
of somebody who supports me.
That's refreshing.
Yeah, they'll see it as somebody who supports them rather than somebody who is inherently against them. And I think as women, we see other women as inherently against each other. So then everybody worries and thinks that everybody hates each other, which they sort of kind of do. So just break the cycle.
The other one I would say is language. One of the things that you can do, like, right from the off is fucking challenge your language. Like, every time you think, you know, like, that you're gonna, I don't know, even slip into a conversation where you're like, oh, she was bitching about you the other day, or like, whoa, fucking, you need to, like, notice it and then be like, I'm not gonna fucking use that word anymore. Or like, you know, or if you're sort of having a conversation with someone and you can notice it slipping down a misogynistic route, like about how many men she slept with, or, you know, the fact that she's put weight on recently, or like, oh, she doesn't make an effort with her appearance or whatever, fucking check yourself and be like, why am I in this fucking conversation? Why am I having a misogynistic conversation with somebody about another woman? Like, just fucking stop it and just go, do you know what, this is making me uncomfortable, can we talk about something else? Because I think this is getting sexist now. Like, I think this is getting misogynistic. But yeah, that was really interesting.
Yeah, it was. Should we finish with a cheers?
Yeah, we should.
Got an empty glass.
I've got an almost empty glass. Should I drink up or?
No, finish with a cheers.
Okay, cheers.